I realised that we were going to have a bad season when the temperatures peaked early and stayed in the high 30s throughout January and February. While everyone else was out enjoying the sunshine, us grape growers were praying for some rain. My grapes ripened 4 weeks earlier than usual, and with that much extra sun I knew that the sugar levels would be too high, so I figured we'd have to rethink the varieties of wine that we could make. But the situation was made a little worse because of the lack of the rain, and the bunches began to slowly shrivel, so the tonnage down was 60% on our predictions. I felt slightly panicked, but I figured the main issue here was to maintain the contract we had with the distributor, so I started sourcing grapes from other regions where the climate hadn't been as drastic and brought them over to crush, processing the wine to fill the bottles and honour the order with the distributor. I didn't really talk to Jude about the problems. She had enough on her hands with the kids, and I figured as the main man of the family, I really had to sort this out myself. I talked to the bank, and they agreed to give us a season's grace to turn it all around. They allowed me to reduce the loan repayments to interest only. They also arranged for me to have a line of credit linked to the mortgage, just in case I needed some extra funds for immediate purchases. By the time the drought hit its 30th straight, I knew something had to change. Thought rather than buying the grapes from other farmers, what if I brought in the water? So I bought a water licence, which cost me an arm and a leg, but it was a choice I had to make. Each acre needed about a megalitre of water to produce a good crop, and that was costing us about $1,000 an acre. Oh, you do the maths, we were going broke, and eventually with the drought, there wasn't even any water left to buy. With no water for the crop, and no rain in sight, the frost arrived, and not only did that take the bulk of the fruit, but the damage it caused to the new growth. Well, I knew next year's crop would also be compromised. I remember looking up at the sky and thinking, damn you, God, where are my seasons? 3 years earlier, I'd been producing nearly 60 tonne of grape, and here I was with all my extra water bills, sitting on 5. I started spending more time locked in my study, and eventually I stopped opening the bills. I knew what they'd say, and there was nothing I could do. Jude asked if everything was alright, but what could I say? I just kept telling her to buy everything on credit. When the bank finally foreclosed, which didn't take long, Jude took the kids back to the city to live with their mum. I don't even think the car was registered anymore, but she took it anyway. By this time the credit cards had been cancelled, and I knew I'd fucked it up big time. Jude knew what was going on by now. In fact, she'd known for a while and been buying most of our food with charity vouchers. I hadn't even known. God, I can't tell you what it feels like to realise that you can't even feed your own kids. And my family, if Nonna and Papa had still been alive. Suppose I could have stayed, fought the banks, tried to rethink of a way out, but by now my nerves were shot, and with no pride left I hit breaking point. I thought about killing myself. There's this place that everyone in town knows about. You can drive your car off there and be done with it. But I didn't even have the guts for that. So one night, I locked the door and walked away. Walked away from it all. I don't know where I went. I wandered, hitched about, slept in parks, old buildings. I found a caravan at the back of a property that I slept in for a while, but nowhere for long. You can always find food as long as you stay close to the bigger towns. I found my place in an alleyway at the back row of takeaways, and they kind of took care of me there. They'd give me food left over at the end of the night, coffee in the mornings, and the rest of the world would leave me alone. You can always get a shower at the library, but I didn't care about those things. I lived like that for 18 months, and I'm not exactly sure what happened in the end. I think Simone and Doug, who ran the pizza shop, started to worry about me when they noticed I hadn't been sleeping in the alleys for a few days. It was in the middle of winter, and I think they called a local church worker, who sometimes came to check on me. They found me half asleep, well, half alive really, down by the river. I'd covered myself in mud, hoping it would keep me warm. But bloody hell, if that drought hadn't broken that night, because I was sleeping in this slimy muck, and I was sick, and I was as low as a dog. After I was well enough to leave the hospital, the alert team got me linked up with a crisis accommodation centre. The staff there helped me to get well, and as I started to trust them, I told them about my story. I have my own place now. It's in a room, in a hostel for men. I keep to myself, and I've even started working on a casual basis, doing odd jobs for a local farmer. My energy is still a little bit up and down. There are days where I don't even want to get out of bed, but my boss understands, and he says when I get good, he can see if he'll help me move into something bigger. I still can't face Jude. I don't want to until I can at least start paying back some of the debt I owe the bank, and I can at least tell them that I have somewhere for us to live. I started dreaming again, so that's a good thing. Dreaming of working the land, just a small farm this time. I don't need to be greedy. Given another chance, I'd rather have my family than anything money can buy. But there's this part of me that still wonders, if I'd been aggressive from the beginning, rather than being conservative for those first 3 years, I wonder how different my life would be today. It might have been enough to keep us afloat, to ride through that drought.